Hello students, next we have to look into the two different type of encoders. One is the incremental encoder and the second one is the absolute encoder. The increment and the absolute. See, the difference is basically that in increment encoder you will never know directly what is the movement or displacement that has happened. Whereas in absolute, you will know exactly what is the displacement that has happened. In incremental, you will have to calculate it to find out. Whereas in absolute, you don't have to do it. How? That we will see. The example of this is given in figure 2. Here I have written it as figure 3, which is actually which should be actually figure 2. Okay. So in figure 2, as you can see, these two are basically the linear encoders, incremental encoders. The first is angular one and the second one is a linear one. Okay, what is happening here I have already explained it in previous video. Now here, as you can see, there are arcs. Clear? Now if I am going to take a circle, the angle within that circle is basically 360 degrees. So let me draw it properly. If I am going to take a circle, then within that circle we are having 360 degrees. Now I can have a situation wherein I am going to keep 180 degrees completely, I will keep it dark, and the other 180 degree I will completely keep opaque. Opaque here, and here I will keep it transparent, the red one that you see. So if this is rotating, if this is going to rotate, then what will happen? At 180 degrees, we will get light passing through, and at the other 180 degree, we will not have any light passing through. So when the light is passing, we will get a pulse that is for 360 degrees and a no light pulse which is for another 180 degrees. So this is going to be 180 and this is going to be another 180. Okay, so what is going to be the resolution? The resolution is going to be only 180. Now instead of having just two arcs, I can have multiple arcs. For example, if I am going to, let me rub this one. Okay, now instead of this, suppose I am going to have 4 arcs. Okay, so I will start first 90 degree, it will be opaque, then the next 90 degree it will be the first 90 degree it will be transparent, and the next 90 degree it will be opaque, and the next 90 degree again it will be transparent, and the next again it will be opaque. So what is going to be the pulse that I am going to have? The pulse is going to look something like this. Whenever I am having the transparent section, the pulse, high pulse I will get, and whenever there is no light, low pulse, again high pulse, and then again low pulse. This is again 90 degrees. Okay, so the angular resolution that we will have is for 90 degrees. Now if I increase it again, and keep on having more and more angles, I can have 45 degrees, and then next 45 nothing, then again 45, and next 45 nothing, then again a 45, and then next 45 nothing, then again a next 45. So this will have a 45 degree. So what am I doing? I am basically dividing the circle into various angles. So like that, I can have any number of divisions. I can have very small arcs of opaque and transparent sections, which will give me higher and higher resolution. Now as it is written here, you can have, the next slide, you can have even the circle divided into 512 angles. That means if I am going to consider the case, suppose if we know that we have 365 degrees angle within a circle, isn't it? If I am going to divide it by 512 angles, if I divide it into 512, so how do I divide it? What is the meaning of division here? Here it means that if you are having a circle like this, you basically divide it. So this is dividing it in 4 parts. Okay, this is dividing it in 4 parts. If I want to divide it in 8 parts, I can divide it into 8 parts like this. Just like we are dividing a pizza into 8 slices. Similarly, I can further divide it into 16 slices. Okay, and like that I can keep on going. Now if I divide it into 512, then each angle, each slice will have an angle of how much? 0.7. Will have an angle of 0.7. And similarly I can even divide it into 1024 arcs, so it will be 365 degrees divided by 1024, and that will be basically 0.35 degrees each. So I will have that small increment to be 0.35 degrees. So that means I will be able to measure a small displacement of 0.35 degrees. Now as it is written that it is an incremental encoder, what an incremental encoder can do is it can only give what is the change. That means suppose if right now, let me draw it in the other page again. Now suppose if I am going to have like this, and then I am having the opaque sections. Let me draw that also. So this much is transparent, again that much opaque, transparent, opaque, transparent, opaque, transparent, opaque, transparent, opaque, and then again transparent. Okay. Now suppose the present position, to show the present position, let me draw something like this. Okay, so this is the present position. Okay, so this is the present position. Now if this goes to an angle of, let's say, up till this much, if it suppose goes to this much angle, which is close to 120 degree, let's say, see what is going to happen. I am going to have a waveform. I'll go to have a pulse waveform which will basically start from here. Let me draw it. Yeah. So when I am here, as you can see, it is slightly opaque, and then for this much sections I will have the light passing through, so I will have that much, and then again it will become opaque for that much part, which will be same length, and then again it will be having a pulse. So let me draw that, and then again it is going to have this much part as opaque, so no pulse. Now I don't know where this has started and where this has ended, because I am only seeing this output, this waveform. I don't know exactly what is happening here because that is not in front of my eyes. What I see is only this waveform. So if I am seeing this waveform, I can only say that 2 transparent sections have passed. That's all. Now what was the previous value, what was the previous angle, and based on this particular waveform, how much angle must have gone, so that, how much angle must have rotated, that theta I can know. But what is the initial theta 1 value, with that only I will be able to understand what is going to be this angle, because this angle will be initial theta 1 plus theta. So there is no way for me to exactly know what is the final angle until I know what was the initial theta 1 value. And that's why it is called as an incremental encoder, because only it can tell you what is the increment value theta. What is the change theta, only that value it can say. So what does the program do? The program always tries to store what is the initial value every time. So suppose it has initial value is theta 1, it will store theta 1, and then it will calculate what is the value of theta, and it will say that okay, so theta is the increment, so this is the increment, and this is the, so this I will write as increment, and this is the initial value. Okay, so theta 1 was the initial value, increment is theta, so the new initial value is theta 1 plus theta. which I will name it as theta 2. And then I will have some another increment after that, which will be some, let's say, theta A. So the new angle will be theta 3, which is theta 2 plus theta A. That is going to be the new initial. So every time we will have to keep on remembering what is the initial value, otherwise the encoder is only going to give us an incremental value and we will not be able to know what is going to be the final position. Okay, so that is why it is called as an incremental encoder. Now another problem that we are going to have is, suppose instead of rotating like this, let me rub it. So suppose instead of rotating like this, suppose it has rotated in the opposite direction. It's not rotated in the same direction. It has suppose rotated in the opposite direction. So let me draw that. So suppose let me rub this one properly. Yeah. Now suppose if I am going to have the starting point, again it is going to be this point, and instead of rotating in 120 degree in clockwise direction, it has suppose gone in anti-clockwise direction and it has gone here. Okay, let me again draw this one very clearly. So suppose if it is exactly here. So now this much portion is no light. Okay, so then it is going to be low pulse. This much portion is going to be transparent, so there is going to be passage of light, so it is going to be high pulse. And then again it is going to be opaque up till this much length, it is going to be opaque, so we will have a low pulse. And again it is going to be high pulse, which we have drawn here, and again it is a low pulse, which again we have drawn here. See, this pulse is the same that we have drawn previously, but there is a difference. The difference is that previously we had gone in this direction, and presently in this case we have gone in this direction. But the output pulse that we are getting in both the cases, the output pulse that we are going to get in both the cases is the same. This is the same pulse that I had got in the previous case when it was going in clockwise direction. So the problem is, how do we basically understand which direction it has rotated? Whether it has rotated positive direction or negative direction. So let me again make the change here. So if it is increment, whether it's a positive increment or whether it's a negative increment, we don't know. And that is the problem which can be solved by a simple technique that I am going to draw it again here. What we do is, let me draw it totally anew. Okay, so I am going to have one circle and I will have one more circle. Okay, let that be here. Okay, now based on this, let me draw the opaque area. So let me start from here. So this much it is going to be, and then it is going to be again opaque, and this much it is going to come here, then again opaque, then again it will come from here, it is going to be opaque after that, then again it is going to be opaque after this. Okay, then within this we will start from this half mark point. Okay, half mark point, and I will again draw another arc, and now that arc will be again transparent, but it will start at this point and it will go up to half point of the other, then again it will start at half point here, then it will go at half point here, again it will start at half and go. So there is a half an angle difference. Okay, now let us see what is going to happen here. So suppose this is the center. Okay, now I am going to take both the angles and I am going to draw what is going to be the so let me draw it like this. Yes, so I should have started from here. I will go in both the directions and I will look at what is the pulse. Now I will not have one pulse, but I am having two pulses. That means I will have two lights. Okay, I will have two lights. I will have two lights. One is for the outer circle and the other one is for the inner circle. So again I am going to go 120 degree. Okay, 120 degree in clockwise direction. So for the red one, let me draw it using red itself. For the red one, I will have, the pulse transmitting because it's transparent, and then up from here to here it is going to be non-transmitting, so it is going to be a downward pulse, and then again it is going to be a transmitting pulse. So it looks something like this. Okay, whereas the blue pulse is going to look, it's going to have half a degree variation. The blue pulse, here it will start with a low pulse, somewhere in the middle it will go up, and then it will remain up until the middle, and then it will go down, and again it will remain opaque for up till this much distance. So for this much it will remain opaque, and then again it will go up and it will remain like this. Okay, so I can see the red pulse is having, or is in front of the blue pulse, okay, by half a pulse. Correct. Now if I am going in the opposite direction, what will happen? If I am going in this direction, so now I have to draw the red pulse. So what is the red pulse going to look like? So let me draw from here. Okay, the red pulse is, first it is going to be totally opaque, and then it is going to have a, it's going to have a high pulse, then 120 degree. Let me draw it something like this. Yeah, let me draw it something like this. Okay, so now the red pulse is like this. So it is opaque, and then it is transparent, and then again after this much distance again it starts to become opaque. So it had just become opaque here, transparent here, and then again opaque this much. Whereas what about the blue? The blue one is going to look, first it is going to be opaque, and then in between it is going to become transparent, and then in between it is going to become again opaque. So in between it becomes opaque, and then it remains opaque for this much duration, and then just it is going to become transparent, Okay, now look at these two. Here if I am going to consider the timeline, okay, let me draw the timeline also. So this is the timeline. Okay, this is the timeline. So here if I am going to look at the leading edges, this is the leading edge going from low to high, and look at this leading edge. So what I can say is the blue one is leading the red. The leading edge of the blue one is going to be in front. Why in front? Because it is the time axis. Whereas here look at the leading edge. Here the leading edge is, this is going to be the leading edge for the red one, and the leading edge of the blue one is here. So going from low to high. And here what do we find? We find that in the timeline the red one is leading ahead of the blue. So by drawing two arcs like this and having two pulses out of it, we will have channel A and channel B, and looking at the leading and the lagging edge, we can come to a conclusion of whether it is glowing in the clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction. So we can give a direction of positive theta or minus theta. Okay, so that is how we basically do in the case of incremental encoder to find out which direction it has rotated. Whereas now if I go for the next kind of encoder, which is the absolute encoder, In the case of absolute encoder, what you find is, let me expand this one a little bit more. Yeah. Here what you find is you are having three different rows. Now you can have three, you can have four, you can have any number. So consider these three first. So this is opaque. So the pulses will be 0, 0, 0. Why? Because there is no current, there is no pulse that is going to pass through. So how is this going to look like? Physically, how does it look like? It looks like there is a arc like this, and then there are three LEDs. Okay, let me draw those. There are three LEDs. The first LED is going to be here, the second LED is going to be here, and the third LED is going to be here. And the light is going to pass, through these discs, and here you will be having the three receivers or photodetectors which will detect if there is light. If there is light, it will give a high pulse. If there is no light, it will give a low pulse. Okay. Now, if the light will pass, that will be the case when it is going to be transparent. So let me draw the transparent one with a different color. So if it is transparent, the light will pass. If it is transparent, the light will pass. If it is not transparent, as you can see in the middle, the light will not pass. So how will the output pulse look like? The output pulse will look like, for this case, it is going to be high because light has passed through. In the middle one, it is opaque, so the pulse will be 0, and the output, the pulse will be, again, it is a high pulse. Okay, let me draw this one as a low pulse. Yeah. So I will get this as high, which is 1, this as low, which is 0, and this one is again high, which is 1. So based on that, I can see here that this is going to be 0, 0, 0. This is going to be 0, 0, 1. This is going to be 0, 1, 1. This is going to be 0, 1, 0. Okay, like that it will have a total rotation. Now have a look here. Here, the first one, it is going to be 0, 0, 0. The next one, it is going to be 0, 0, 1. The next one is 0, 1, 0. 0, 1, 0. The next one, 0, 1, 1. Then the other one, 1, 0, 0. And then we are having 1, 0, 1. Like that it will change. It will go again, it will be 1, 1, 0. And the final one is going to be 1, 1, 1. So this is the bit 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have divided it into 8 parts, from 0 to 7. So based on what is the output, we will be exactly able to say which sector we are in, or which sector exactly this has rotated to. Here it is the same. The only thing is that this is in gray code. This is in gray code, and we know that in gray code, what is the difference? In gray code, with every step you are only having one bit change. So here you can see it is 0, 0, 0, then it is going to be 0, 0, 1, and then it is going to be 0, 1, 0. So one and the same thing. Here this is simple binary, and here it is simple gray code. But what is important here to understand is that with this, you can divide the whole 360 degree into 365 degrees. Sorry, 360 degrees, not 365. Again, I have made a mistake here. Sorry, it is not 365 degrees, it is 360 degrees. Sorry, 365 days. Okay. So 360 degrees. So 360 degrees is going to be, again, divided into 8 sectors. Like that, if I am going to have 4 rows, so if I am going to have 4 rows, so 4 rows means it will start from 0, 0, 0, 0, and it will go from 0, it will go to 1, 1, 1, 1. It will go to 1, 1, 1, like that. Correct? So how many sectors we will have? We will have 2 raised to power 4, which is 16 sectors. Similarly, if I am going to have 5 rows, then it will be 2 raised to power 5, which is 32 sectors, sorry. And for 6 rows, it will be 64, 2 raised to power 6, which is 64 sectors. Like that, I can go up to 512 if I am having 8 rows. And if I am having 9 rows, again it is going to go up, which is going to be 1024. So like that we can have any number of rows, and based on that we will have that much small sectors, and which each sector, with each output you can directly say which sector the presently the position is. So that's why it is called as absolute encoders, because you don't have to always store what is the initial position. You can directly look at what is the present value and exactly say where, in which sector the rotation is presently there. Okay, so that is the thing of absolute encoders, and that is the difference between absolute encoders. Okay, next, to understand the position, another sensor that we have, another sensor that we have is basically an LVDT, or what is called as a linear variable differential transformer. Okay, what is the concept of differential transformer? See, in a differential transformer, let's basically just look at the transformer. See, based on the number of windings, if you are going to keep a core, an iron core in between, what will happen is, because of the current passing through this wire, a magnetic field will be generated in the core, and that magnetic field will travel through the core and it will totally energize the core, magnetically energize the core. And once you have that magnetically charged up core, and suppose if you put another winding at this side, we will have a conversion of magnetic energy to again electrical energy, and you will get the current out of this particular wire. That is basically what happens in a transformer. A transformer is not a amplifier, it will never amplify any current, but it can obviously step up or step down the voltage. So if you are having a voltage here and another voltage is developed here, you can have V2 greater than V1 by simply increasing the number of windings. So this number of windings is N2 and this is N1. Suppose here N1 is 1000 windings, and here if you keep N2 as 2000 windings, then the voltage will obviously increase but the current will reduce. Okay, so don't think that it's a transformer can be used as an amplifier. Many people make that mistake. It's basically the power is going to be the same, the energy that is transferred is going to be the same with losses, but what we will have is we can have a step up or we can have a step down. Now what we are having here in an LVDT is similar to a transformer, where this is the primary and this is the secondary. Now what is the primary here? This is called as the primary side and this is called as the secondary side. Now as you can see, the primary and the secondary will have two windings in the secondary side and only single winding in the primary side. Okay, and suppose this is the core, this is the center core that we are having. Now in the secondary, the winding is opposite winding. That means here if it is clockwise for this winding, then here it will be anti-clockwise. And how they have made that sure? They have made that sure by by going it in this direction. So here you can see the wire is entering from this side and finally leaving here, whereas here the wire is entering from the top and it is leaving here, and it is basically a winding. And the winding is such a way that the voltage that is developed here, let me write it, the voltage that is developed here, again let me zoom it in, okay. The voltage that is developed here, that means let us say this is V1 and this is V2. The winding is of such nature that V out is basically going to be V1 minus V2. Okay. So the voltage that is developed here is opposite to the voltage that is developed here. And how they have taken care of that? By putting opposite winding. So the opposite winding that we are having here, that and the winding that we are having in the opposite direction for V2, both will produce a voltage V out, which is V1 minus V2. Now, look at this particular rod that we are having in between. This rod that we are having in between. This rod can be moved inside or outside, which is drawn by this particular arrow. So we can move it inside or outside. And suppose if we want to find out how much inside or outside it has gone, we can very clearly understand it by when suppose, let me draw it again. So this is the initial condition, initial position. Initial position is suppose that the area that is seen by the secondary winding V2 portion and the area that is seen, or area of the volume that is seen of the core by V1 is same, then V1 and V2 voltage will be same and we will have zero voltage, which is shown here. Now by some chance suppose if I am going to, so if we are going to suppose pull this one little bit down, that means instead of being here, suppose if the rod is the core rod, if suppose it comes a little down, okay. So now what has happened is the amount of volume of the core that is there in the secondary and the amount of core that is there in the primary, both of these are different. So the voltage V1 will be more than V2 and hence the V out will have a positive value because V1 is more than V2. So as you can see in this graph, as you are moving, the position is moving in this direction. That means when we are moving out, we will have the value V1 more and the value V1 minus V2 more because the V2 value is keeping on reducing. And when we are going to have the rod moving in the other direction, so let me draw that. Suppose if the rod is moving in the other direction, what will happen? So here the rod has now moved out in this direction, or what we'll say that it has moved in the opposite direction like this, okay. And now the area or the volume of the core, this one is this much and for here it is going to be this much. So as you can see now the V2 voltage will be more than V1 because the core that is there, the core area is going to be less, so that windings, number of windings that are going to be there, their number is going to go down. So because of which what we see is that the voltage V1 is less than V2, so V out will be negative value, which is shown by this graph going down. So for these positions we will have negative voltage, and for the position this side, that is positive position, we will have positive values. So based on this, wherever is whatever is the position, current position, based on that we will have some voltage value at V out, and with that we will be able to exactly find out what is the position. And that is basically what happens in a linear variable differential transformer. And now with this explanation, let me try to again say what is differential. Why is it called differential? Because we are taking a difference. Transformers, because obviously this is a transformer. Linear, because the graph is linear, it's a linear graph, and obviously the motion is also linear. Variable, because the value of V out is changing. So linear variable differential transformer, or LVDT, is basically exactly that. So if you want to read, you can read it, and the same thing is written. Similarly, next we are having something called as resolvers. Now resolvers is very similar to LVDT. Same. The only difference is that LVDT was for linear case and resolvers is for revolute joint. That means when the movement is angular for that case. So here you can see we are having two windings. This is going to be the primary winding and these two are going to be the secondary winding. Okay, so we are having two different windings, V1, V2. And based on the position of this coil, sometimes the coil may be more aligned towards V2. In that case, V2 will have more voltage. And similarly, if this is not aligned in this direction, but it is aligned suppose to V1, then in that case, more voltage will be between for V1 instead of V2. As this is rotating, as you can see that physically we have placed V1 and V2 in 90 degrees apart. That means this is at this angle and this is at V1 is at this angle, so they are 90 degree apart. So the voltage that is going to be developed because of this, it's a sine voltage. That voltage is going to have, so the voltage of the V1 and the voltage of V2, they will be 90 degree apart. Okay, and based on that we will be able to very clearly find out what is the the position. We will be able to find out the value of theta by looking at both these. Okay, so you might be asking that if we can find out the position with this voltage, we can only we only need one of the one of the voltage. There is no need for two voltages. Let me explain to you. See, V1 is the voltage of this coil and V2 is the voltage of this coil. Suppose if the direction of rotation is clockwise, that means this is rotating in this direction. The V1 voltage, whatever is the high position of V1, whenever V1 is occurring at, whenever there is the high position of V1, at that point, at that time, it will be 0 volt for the second waveform. Which is the second waveform? The second waveform is for this V2. So the V2 will be 0 at that point. So I will draw it something like this. Okay, or let me draw it. I will better draw it a little bit more clearly. So this is the axis, time axis, and now I have to draw. Okay, now if suppose the position is like this, let me clear the clutter here. Okay, right now suppose the position of this coil is like this. Okay, the rotation is like this. So V1 will be the maximum voltage. Why? Because it is in the same direction. So the V1 voltage, which I will draw using this color, is maximum at that point. And then as this is slowly moving away, the voltage in V1 will slowly start to go down. And then again, when it is totally in the opposite direction, that means if the coil is in this direction, then the voltage will be totally opposite. Why? Because the winding has totally turned. And then again it will go up and again it will reach a high. When is this zero occurring? The zero is occurring when the windings are 90 degree to each other. Okay, when the windings are 90 degree to each other, that means suppose if the winding is like this, or if it is in the opposite direction, that time V1 will experience this 0 points. But when the windings are like this, V2 will experience the high voltage. For drawing that, let me use this color. So that time V2 will experience the high voltage, and then if it is like this, then the voltage will slowly go down, and then it will be something like this, and here it is going to be like this. Okay, So you can see, I will have to draw this one again because, okay, so at this point when the first waveform is maximum, it will be 0, and then at this point when it is 0 here, it will be maximum for this one, and then again it will go and reach here. Okay, so that is going to be the case. Okay, now let me draw the same diagram, but this time it is going to rotate in the opposite direction. Okay, so let me again draw. So suppose if my winding is like this, and then it is going to go in the opposite direction. Okay, so what will happen when I am going to move away from this position? The V1 voltage, the voltage that is developed in V1 is going to go down. Okay, it is going to go down, and then slowly it will go up. Okay, it will slowly go up. So again I will say that this is going to be the same waveform, the one that I have drawn here. This waveform is going to be the same waveform. Okay, so it is going to be high and then it is going to be low. But what is happening to the V2 one? Since this is going in the opposite direction, V2 is starting at 0 and then it is going towards negative. So the voltage for the V2, the voltage will basically it will go down from 0, and then it will come up. It will become a maximum here, and so when it is going in the opposite direction, the V2 voltage, the first case the V2 voltage was this one, and the second case the V2 voltage is this one. And what you can see, if I draw this voltage completely, I will see that the peak will come here. So when it is going in clockwise direction, the V2 voltage is going to be in front of V1 voltage, whereas when it is going in anti-clockwise direction, the V2 voltage is going to be behind it. So based on that, we can find out what is the direction of rotation. So that's why I said with only one voltage, of course you can find out what is the position, but you will never get what is the direction. For getting the direction, we have to have two windings, V1 and V2. Okay, rest is the same principle of transformer that we are going to use. So resolvers are basically used for the case of angular movement, and LVDTs are basically used for the case of linear movement. So these are the sensors that are used for position. Another one that we are having is time of travel or magnetoreflective displacement sensor. What happens is, there is a core in the middle where the current is basically traveling, and we will send a pulse. The pulse will move forward. Okay, and wherever there is a magnet, at that point the pulse will basically turn back, it will come back. Okay, whenever there is a magnet, there is there's a voltage that is developed, because of which the pulse that has gone forward will actually come back through the rod itself. It will come back. So the time of travel we can calculate. So if suppose I have sent a pulse and I get a return pulse at this much time, then I will be able to say that, okay, let me draw this little bit big, let me enhance it, or let me zoom it. Okay, so suppose I have sent a pulse in time. Let me draw the time axis also. So this is the time axis. I sent a pulse, and that pulse is, suppose, this one. I sent a pulse and that pulse came forward, and wherever the magnet is, from there the pulse will return back. Okay, so I sent this pulse, I got the return pulse, suppose at this time period. Obviously it will have reduced in height at all. So this much is the time period of travel and return. Okay, total time of travel is when it has gone from here, reflected back and come back. So based on that time and the speed with which the pulse is traveling in the conductor, we can exactly calculate how much distance it has gone. So if we attach our movement to this magnet, the magnet will move here and there, and based on that we will get the time of travel, which is different. With that we will be able to find out what is the displacement. So the displacement sensors are completed here. Next we have to go for the velocity sensors. Thank you.